G'day. This week it's all about having a look what I do typically in a day when I'm caravanning around Australia. So I've just given you a bit of an insight, just to give you a rough idea what I'm doing, as if you care. But you might be following something similar in your routine, and you might be able to plan that in your routine. So anywho, let's go. Hey Google, good morning.
Good morning, Paulie. It's 6:58 a.m. It's 12 and partly cloudy. Today, it'll be partly cloudy with a high of 25 and a low of 11. Have a nice day. Here's the latest news from ComSec Market News at 6:01 p.m. yesterday.
When you arrive at a camp, one of the first things to do is to put out a step. Now I've got this step, I've been through a few, and I found that I had one fail in Western Australia. These steps don't take the weight of a caravan. Now I found that out because I was driving out of camp and I actually literally drove over one of these and just destroyed it. Now I usually keep it folded up inside the van. Not for any particular reason, but it gives me the opportunity always to have these little arms to be lubricated, I guess. And when you put it there, make certain it's nice and firm and just check it yourself. Oh, see, mine wobbles. Right, so that's nice and firm. Don't put it too close, don't put it too far from the caravan. The other thing I've got, and I tend to put it out when I stay longer than a night, is this mat. Now some people will say, well, why did you get such a short mat? Because I only wanted a short mat. I'm not really ever anticipating having a dinner party or drinks and cocktails out the front of the van or the side of the van. So as you can see, it's fairly short. Now I used to put something underneath each one of those on the mat because I was worried it might put a hole in it. But I don't know, I since don't do that, so I don't know whether that's good or bad. Pull it as tight as possible. Now if you're in a windy place, it's a good idea to, it's got little eyelets, good idea to put some tent pegs in there. I don't tend to bother unless they all start flapping up, and then I will. Again, step, make certain it's nice and steady. No, yep, that's it. There's, again, not too far, so you don't want to be here and then this massive step, and equally when you're coming out. Step done, mat, and it's a real pleasure being able to walk out here if you have to come out during the night or something and you've just got socks on or bare feet. You tend to be pretty well protected. Now the other thing I love about this mat is that when you're down at the beach on the sand, if your whole caravan of cars on the sand, when the sand gets on it, don't know how, it's some sort of system, what it does is it shuffles through and goes below the mat, so you don't have sand much on the mat, which is, I don't even know how that works, but it's pretty good. I've definitely tried that a few times. So you're probably going to want to know what brand it is. The brand is C Gear. That's C for Charlie, just to C the letter, and then gear straight after it. It's a C Gear mat. Very good. Good morning, top of the morning to you. You're in the inner sanctum. So I always start the day with brush my hair and comb my face. The important part of the day. There we go. Got to say, there's not a lot I can do with it. Here we go. And then a few domestic duties. Now I know this is a no-no for a lot of people, especially guys with relationships, but maybe I've been single for too long. I'm about to do the dishes, and yes, it is in the morning. Following, should go to bed. I know all the stories. Anywho, I'm just about to do. So what I do is I've never found the sink to work enough. So I don't like to waste water, only because in this van, it's really quite critical. I can never quite get enough. So rather than fill the sink with water, which I think takes about probably at least 4 to 6 litres, don't want to do that. What I do is I just use one of my saucepans, which I know takes 2 litres, fill it up, pop it on the gas stove, and then I use that as the sink. The other thing I wanted to do is a little random tip. See that's just your little plug for the sink. So on the kitchen sink and on the bathroom sink, got the ensuite, what I've done is put a little cable tie in and kept the cable tie that distance, and that way if this little plug falls in or falls around and I can't find it in the water or I can't find it anywhere, it's always got this little doodad hanging up. Not my idea, that's Steve's idea, one of my subscribers. So there you go. Yeah, so I'm just going to test whether the water's hot enough. Not quite. Just need to check whether the water's hot enough. That's hot enough. Domestic duties, got to be done. So I had the gas stove on there. It's probably not a good idea to put that on, so I put it somewhere relatively safe. Make certain I'm drying the clean dish plate, not the dirty one. I'm pretty sure I've told you this one before. I'll just clean it. This is what I use for tossing things on the stove, cooking wise, not tossing, and or if I'm out in the barbecue. Basically it's a spatula. They use, the builders use them, something I'm not into, but if you're going to buy one, get the best stainless steel and best quality you can get. You probably pay a bit, somewhere like Bunnings or your local hardware, but invariably it's been proved incredibly useful. One side has just got a slight edge. I wouldn't call it a blade, but and it doesn't really make any difference which way. Say for flipping eggs or pancakes or something exotic like that. here's a random tip for you. This was donated by my brother, the tip I mean. And normally I'll just cut up wood with this chainsaw, do whatever I've got to do. But his idea we tried out last night and made a massive difference. So basically what he did, as opposed to what I normally do, was he was cutting up the wood into chunks that would fit inside my fire, because I usually use the fire and I don't tend to use a fire pit no matter where I go. I always use mine because it's a great design. Now if you make them short and to fit in there, it will stop them, which is what I was doing. I'd boost up the fire. Hopefully you can see that. Yeah, I boost up the fire, put that on, and you can see that it's going to heat up, fall out. Part of it's going to fall out. So what he suggested, and what we tried last night, was cut them so that they fit inside there. What could possibly go wrong? There you go, that's what could go wrong. Shorter, fit in absolutely perfectly. And just for those who do or don't know, the reason that was struggling to get through, so I'm pretty sure it's redwood. If it's not redwood, it's yellow box, and they're the two best, in my opinion, the best pieces of wood to use in your fire, because what they do is they give it a massive amount of heat, take a long time to burn out, and yeah, there you go. Oh yeah, just reminds me, before I go, I did tell you that I was going to tell you what the story is with the gumboots. Well, both this camp and the previous camp had really bad case of jumping jacks and the big red bull ants, and as a child, maybe I've got over it, but as a child I was allergic to them. So what I did was I laid out a big mat, which I talked about earlier on, and I thought, well, the gumboots are going to give me half a chance. So that's why the gumboots, and obviously to entertain you as well. Now I've got the car and the caravan separated. There's a couple of things I want to talk about that's easier to see when they're separated. First of all, I've got the trailer hitch locked. Now I can't emphasise it enough, probably from my failings, but whatever you do, make certain you've got two keys cut and they're both in really good places to find. I usually will have one kept in the car and one kept in the caravan. So that's just my little plan. And hopefully one of these, well, I know one of these will work. There we go. Right, so that's got the lock thing sorted out. Okay. Now another thing I wanted to talk about for hitching up the caravan. I think I've talked about this before, but basically what I've done is I've got three things that connect to the car. One is the Anderson plug, which goes to the alternator. Another one is the trailer plug, obvious, and this last one is a video plug, and it actually connects to, I've got a camera on the back of the caravan which gives me all-time viewing of cars behind me. So when I'm driving down the road, I've got a dedicated screen that shows me all the cars behind me, and that helps me for all sorts of things. But yeah, it's great. So the thing I wanted to mention is I've got like a little, it's not an ocker strap, but you can buy them in little packets. You've got to get the packet. You can't just buy one individually, I don't think. And basically what it looks like is so. Okay, what it looks like is one of these. They've got like an elasticated, and then on the other end they've got like a little knob, and what you can do is once it's tied you can pull a little strip here. I'll show you. So that's the little dingle dangle, and I bought mine at super cheap. This little attachment here you can pull to tighten whenever you've got it, and you just pull it up to tighten. Now where I've got it is I've got it over the I've got it holding Anderson plug, trailer plug, and video plug, and you probably already saw how it's now, almost all of them are almost touching the ground, so it wouldn't take much. If they all fell off at the same time, then it's going to drag, and I've had that problem before and I've had to replace them, and it can cause a lot of heartache. So what I do is I wrap this around, maybe a couple of times just because. I then wrap all of that onto the over the D35, which is my trailer hitch. I then make certain it doesn't impede any other cables, and then I tighten it. Alright, so if you can see it now, they're all hanging up pert. See that? You might need to, when you're actually connecting them, what I do is I just loosen this, and now they become a whole lot floppy, and I can stick them into the car. And don't forget, if you can, to just tighten it up again. Once I've plugged in the 240 volt into the caravan, side of the caravan, what I'll do then is I'll grab the entire cable and I'll take it, walk it the length until it's all straight. I'll then do a very wide loop and bring it back. That's something that actually the subscribers taught me to do. If possible, don't have the cables crossed over each other, and then that'll sort that problem out. I'm not sure if you can see it, but at no point does that cable cross over itself. So it's plugged into the caravan. I'll now plug it into the generator, and once I start the generator, I should have 240 volt throughout the caravan. So here is my trusty generator. Usually starts every time. So turn power on, turn the choke, fingers crossed. Get ready. 3, off choke. It's now running 240 volts into the caravan, which means I can use the air conditioner, the microwave, all separately, but anytime I want. And it'll charge up my batteries. BTW, when you've finished using the generator, wait for it to cool down, because at the moment I've got the exhaust over there and it's easy for me to push it in and pull it out. But if I don't wait for it to cool down, the exhaust might touch stuff inside the caravan and could be a danger, and that's the worst case scenario. Best case, it could start melting all the stuff it touches up against, so wait for it to cool down. Once the car and the caravan are separated, what I tend to do is, you see this flap here? Without the caravan, it will literally flap about. So if someone's following you, it's a bit of a distraction, this thing flapping around the place. The other thing is, when you're reversing, it tends to upset the reversing. I've got the reversing things here, and you hear it alarm going off, and I'm not even close to anything else. So what I tend to do is, I tend to wrap them up nice and tight. I'm doing that by doing this. Then I get these little short velcros and run them over, and they just support up there. Lock it on. I usually have 4, you may only need 2, but I tend to have 4. Another one over. As I say, maybe 2 is enough, but again, just for keeping it all nice and tidy, I tend to put on the 4. This is why only if you're out and about, I wouldn't put it on or off, on and off every time. There you go, and it makes it just nice and tidy to drive along. Well, there you have it. Better get this over and done with before the rains descend on me. I'm in Melbourne. It's in autumn, getting close to winter. Hopefully I've given you a few ideas what you might typically do in the day of caravanning around Australia. It's not the absolute, but it gives you some idea. Now, if you found the video useful, helpful and or entertaining, please give it a thumbs up. If you think it's worth sharing, that too would be great. Until next time, this is Paul Wheel Drive, signing off.